Throughout the history of Dungeons & Dragons, the number of playable races has only continued to increase. This can be seen most strikingly in the number and kind of races available from the player's handbook, the default options for the game. It used to be the Tolkienian races: humans, elves, dwarves, hobbits. Then they added half-orcs, gnomes, and God knows what else. By 3rd edition, the core races were still pretty sane, but it was in 4e that they started adding tieflings to the core rulebook, and the avalanche of freakshit races began. Now there seems to have been some primal shift. While there were always tons of races, most players still confined themselves to the player's handbook. Now, with easy official online rule sets, all the races are available to everyone, and the internet being more normalized than it was back then, many players do not even use a book to make their character. As a result, the game is infested with freakshit races, turning your average D&D setting into something akin to the Mos Eisley Cantina in Star Wars. And this is not a good thing by any means. Freakshit races are a boring and lazy way to make a so-called unique or interesting character. But they seem to be an adequate substitute to the hordes of mentally ill morons and boring reference humor addicts that tend to play these races, tacking on some generic edgy backstory as a substitute for any kind of depth. That is fine. D&D doesn't need to be some attempt at deep literary character study, but it also does not need to contain 50 freakshit races. It is a nightmare for any kind of coherent world building when you have a village of 20 different races, of which a small fraction are sexually compatible. What is the point? Why do they live together? This is simply the coastal morons who make D&D deciding to project their vision of a multicultural, cosmopolitan city like San Francisco. That is why they love Ravnica from Magic the Gathering so much. It is a fertile breeding ground to project their globalist propaganda onto and seed it in the minds of millions. It also helps sell books, and the morons who eat it up are happy to do so, lowering the quality of their game and world and making it childish, reducing it to a kitchen sink of wish fulfillment of individuals. Again, no one is expecting a D&D world to elevate itself to any literary level, but it should at least elevate itself to imitating something decent like Tolkien or Howard rather than whatever it is currently. Unfortunately, it is likely too late, as the SJWs have created context that anyone running human-only games is a controlling, railroading, toxic jackass of a dungeon master and who is probably also an actual racist. They do this to promote their soulless garbage, their low-effort CGI art, and to conceal their complete lack of talent. Hell, most of the 5th edition adventure books are rip-offs of older adventures, with very little in the way of actual original content. Players are encouraged to be freak-shit races, but are also told that any kind of division or difference in those races is fantasy racism, which is now equivalent to real racism, so it must not be tolerated. This retarded doublethink resulted in the customizable ancestry rules, thus reducing all races to simple point-buy type stats where your race doesn't actually matter. But it is kept in there to make the fans happy. It is simple stat bloat now. It is not even a real mechanical identity. Players will just give themselves whatever stat boosts fit their class and play whatever they want, while still not playing a human. So, freakshit races don't even have a mechanical reason to exist in D&D 5e now, yet they still persist, and the idea of a human-only game is anathema. The monsters aren't enough by themselves. There must be 50 different races, and they must be completely customizable. This is just bizarre and grotesque. Anyone who sees no issue with this is a plebeian who doesn't take the game seriously at all. Disgusting. And yet that is the player base now, because nobody saw fit to engage in any kind of gatekeeping, any kind of fan base hygiene. So we are stuck with freakshit, We have no other choice now, because that is what sells, and what sells is king in 2023.